All right, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna be doing, I don't even know if this would be like a preventative maintenance mod or what this would be, but I'm hoping that this is gonna solve a lot of issues for you guys out there because I've been reading tons of posts and I've actually been talking to a couple of people in the 3-liter community who have come across an issue that our fueling systems are starting to have. Now, some of you might be having these symptoms already, and some of you might be on the verge of these symptoms about to start kicking in on your 3 liters. As they're starting to age, they're almost 10 years old, some of them getting close to 15, and there is something that is gonna start causing some issues as far as your fuel economy, your performance, and actually your Q7, Touareg, Cayenne, or whatever might actually be rolling coal for some reason. And if you are tuned, you might be expecting that to be normal. But in a lot of circumstances, that is not the case. We are actually going to be replacing the fuel pressure relief valve on your fuel rail for your injectors. There are a couple symptoms, like I said, that could be causing you to maybe want to do this, and I'm gonna hopefully be able to narrow those down for you guys. One of which, the easiest way you're gonna be able to figure that out for sure is if you're able to data log. Now, VCDS, OED11, there are some other tools depending on if you have a Porsche that will let you look at the information that your engine is giving you from these sensors to let you know if the fuel pressure or the relief valve is fluctuating consistently enough. And I'll show you some data logs here in a second. And number one, the easiest way you're gonna be able to tell is if there might be an issue there is if you're rolling coal, and if you're rolling coal as bad as this. So my Q7 behind us is a fully deleted CATS, DPF, SCR, all that good stuff. It's got the EGR, all that's gone, and it's a stage 2 with delete tune, Tunezilla tune. I said tune way too many times there on the car right now. And what made me actually start diving into the issue here, aside from just actually rolling coal, was the fact that I recently went to stage 2.5 with Tunezilla's new tune, which I have other friends who have done this tune already, and they say that it feels a lot faster. Now, you guys knowing me with all of my other gas vehicles that I've owned in my TDI, my Golf, and other vehicles, I like to compare tunes when I do the upgrades, and I do draggy testing, I data log them, and I just really want to see what the differences are. And when I did the 2.5, there was no difference. The fuel economy wasn't really any different. I think it was slightly worse. It was the same 0 to 60, it was the same quarter-mile times, basically identical, and I'll show you here. Now, this isn't to knock the Tunezilla tune at all because I've been running their tunes on all of my diesels that I've ever owned ever, and I knew something was wrong. So I went and I did some digging, especially on the 3-liter TDI V6 North America Facebook group, and if you're not in that group and you do own a 3-liter TDI, be it a CATA, a CNRB, or anything in between, I would go and join that group. And one of our local to North America tuners did some digging, and he found that the fuel pressure relief valve, which is this fella right here on the fuel rail on the passenger side of the 3-liter CATA and the CNRB, they just wear out over time, and it's unfortunately a pretty expensive wear item. So we've gone ahead and we've picked up a Bosch replacement. Now you can go OEM. Bosch obviously is the manufacturer for the OEM part, so you can save some money going that route. I will have a link to the relief valve in the description if you want to go ahead and pick it up and follow along with this install. Not super bad. We're hopefully going to get rid of this issue because I would like the Q7 to be a little bit faster on the stage 2.5, so hopefully this solves it. But let me show you what to look for if you want to go to step 2 of diagnosing this issue and looking at data logs. So VCDS is my tool of choice, so let's talk about what you're going to want to measure. So the two most important values we're going to look at here are these two right here. So you have fuel high pressure actual value and the high fuel pressure specified value. Now, one of them is what the car is requesting, and one is what the fuel pressure relief valve is actually seeing or giving to the car. So one is an ask, one is an actual. Now, I would also put throttle position and or load on this log. This is just the one I did because I went on a pretty long drive to go pick up some parts to really just see what it was doing real world, and that was the best way to see it. So we have a couple pulls in here and everything. So I'm gonna zoom in on one of these, and we're gonna talk about what you're actually gonna wanna look for in terms of the difference between the two numbers. So as we can see here, left side actual, right side specified. We're looking at these numbers where the actual is higher than the specified. Now what's going on here is the CP4, or the high pressure fuel pump, in the 3 liter is providing so much pressure that the metering valve can't compensate for the additional fuel that it's giving. So, and that's kind of why it's rolling coal. So we see this quite a bit over the duration of the log, and I'm actually using the Tunezilla log viewer here because it helps visualize the data into an actual graph. And I'm not sure if you guys will be able to see this on the camera, but all of these little areas where the gray line is over top of the blue is actually the valve giving more fuel than what it's actually requesting. So especially right here, you see this large gap. It'll focus right there. Like if we go and we look at that, that's probably just like a very small little pull to get up to speed. Request is 824,000, or the actual is 824,000 and the request is 750. So there's definitely something going on there. Now, according to some of the people in the 3 liter group, and one of the most common things, and I am not really sure how you would experience this without actually logging and diving into this a little bit more, is low to zero fuel pressure at startup. So what happens is the valve actually will stick open, and though there will be no fuel pressure in the system when you go to startup after a certain amount of time. Like obviously for everyone, it'll vary depending on how much wear is actually in the relief valve and how much it's actually able to bleed past, which leads to having no fuel pressure at the CP4 high pressure fuel pump, which can lead to failures over time. But yeah, there is a multitude of things that could be going on with your Q7 or your Touareg or your Cayenne, but for those reasons, we're now gonna jump into doing this install, and hopefully this is gonna be fairly simple. You do need one other part as well when you're doing this install because it is not provided on the new valve, and that would be this guy right here. It's a seal ring. You can get it from Volkswagen or Audi. It's the same part for both vehicles, even your Cayenne. There's the part number right there. I'll have it linked to ECS as well in the description. If you guys wanna pick stuff up from there, either of the two parts, it really helps me out, so I do appreciate it. But I'm gonna throw you guys on the tripod. We're gonna rip this bad boy off, and it's very simple to do, so let's get it started. And naturally, we have to go back to the zoom lens to make your guys' lives a little bit easier. Hopefully that will focus nice for us. I also know all you guys complain that I don't have good enough lighting. I'm trying to figure it out. I want one of those Milwaukee like underhood lights that like straps to the hood, but I also think I wanna just upgrade the lighting in the garage a little bit, but I don't know how much longer I'm gonna be here, so that's a whole conversation for another video. So for the CNRB, and I don't know if it's specifically for the Q7, but my relief valve is right up in the front here. So there's a couple things that are a little bit in the way, like this one glow plug here. So I'm just gonna pull that guy. I wish I could kind of rotate this, the fuel line banjo bolt out of the way a little bit. I don't wanna do that because I just don't wanna mess with it. But I know for the CATA and some of the other 3 liters, the relief valve is in the back. So unfortunately, some of you guys are gonna have to move around a whole bunch of pipes and stuff that are in the rear of the fuel rail. But for me and in my circumstance, I don't have to. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start here. So sorry to you guys that have the one in the back, but it's all fairly simple stuff. Just take your time, don't break stuff. Move things out of the way as needed. And if things are feeling tight, don't reef on them, because speaking from experience, that's how things break on Volkswagens. And you're gonna need 2 wrenches. You're gonna need a 30 mil and a 35 millimeter. Now, I don't have anything that goes that big, so I'm gonna be using adjustable wrenches, and I know a lot of you are probably gonna rip me apart in the comments for doing that, but other people have done it, and I've talked to professional mechanics and tuners and stuff that use them to pull this guy out, so that's what we're gonna do. Gonna go ahead and disconnect the pressure fit clip here, get that out of the way. Now we're gonna need to hold the larger side. So let me explain on the new guy how this is gonna go down. So on our new valve, you need to hold this one, which is the 35, and then we need to undo this guy because that are the threads that rotate that screw into the fuel rail. So hold this guy and rotate this guy to take it off. And to do that, we are going to, thought I had this set up already, try and make our lives a little bit easier here. Also, I hope you guys like the new mics. I am using the new, well, not the new to me, DJI Mic 2. They sounded pretty good. I did some testing with them the other night. Pretty sweet. They're really convenient. You guys are able to hear me when I actually walk away from the camera now. That was one of the big things that bothered me a lot, because I used to say a lot of important stuff about what I was working on when I wasn't actually anywhere near the camera. So you guys have some decent range. So let's see if we can't. I'm actually gonna try and see if I can use a smaller adjustable. That one's a little big. Oh, perfect example. See, I've walked away from the camera and I'm sure that you guys can still hear me clear as day. And I know. Upgrade your lighting, I will, I promise. Just for you guys, because I love you guys. Okay, it also doesn't help that my engine is like super freaking hot at the moment. Honestly, I might undo that banjo bolt just a tiny little bit and rotate it, just a little bit, because it is 150,000% in my way, just ever so slightly. 17 millimeter if you also need to do this for whatever reason. Go. Okay, there's one. I'm gonna put the big guy back on. Okay, now, not entirely sure which way is gonna be loosey-goosey here. I'm assuming I just hold and push away. Okay, so I hold, and then it's gonna go that way. There we go. That wasn't too hard. A little love tap. Hopefully my camera is pointing at what I was doing. Yes, excellent. Now, obviously this being a fuel related thing, now that we've got that loose, we're gonna have some fuel spillage, most likely. Grab a couple of rags, and we're just gonna slip that guy under there. And there also is a bleeding procedure for this after, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay, so let's see. Now this is also gonna be a telltale of if mine is one of the valves that leaks down over time, because there should be fuel pressure in here, as it definitely feels that way as I undo this. The sensor is also extremely hot right now. There we go, very minimal fuel pressure. There's the old guy, just like that. I'm gonna run out of camera space in a minute here, so we'll be back in a second. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and put the new O-ring on our new valve here. So I'm gonna pull this guy out really quick. Good old Volkswagen double bagging things, good on them. So we're gonna go ahead and very carefully slip this guy on here, because obviously this being a fuel part, of course I say very carefully and very easily, right? Because this is not easy at all. Let me grab something to help us do that. I wouldn't use anything like super sharp that can damage any of the metal bit or put anything in the little relief holes that are in here. So I'm just gonna use a little trim tool to get it over that ridge, because plastic is not really gonna do anything. There we go. So we're gonna lube it up. Gonna use some of the diesel that is just on the threads of the fuel rail here. And then I'm gonna make sure that nothing's in that hole there, which it isn't. We're just gonna go ahead, get that guy back in there, and just start it off by hand and start getting her in there. And obviously you wanna go ahead and clock the sensor in the direction that it was originally, just like that. Can we honestly just clock this straight up? No, it's gotta be sideways. Okay, get that guy. Zoom back in here for you guys. I realize they're just kind of screwing that in without you being able to see anything. Okay, snugging it on up with the adjustable. Now, I'm not entirely sure how you would be able to torque this down. I will see if there are torque specs online for this, but I wouldn't hold your breath on that. There we go, nice and snug. Throw the connector back on. Don't forget to throw that glow plug back in if you are doing the same as me. And done. Like I said, this was a very simple install. This isn't anything super crazy. It is a little bit of a headache just because of how expensive this part is and what it can be doing to your car if you're experiencing the things we talked about. But now let's bleed the system, get some fuel back in the rails, fire it up and make sure this thing works, and then we're gonna go do some data log and see if this thing still rolls coal. And hopefully it doesn't, because we're not modified Cummins trucks around here. We're fancy European vehicles, but also rolling coal is cool sometimes. So, you know, it is what it is. Okay, but there you go. All right. Let's bleed this bad boy. Okay, so we have to do one thing first. So if you got VCDS hooked up, I will show you the adaptation for the basic setting we're gonna use. 00459. This is the test of the transfer pump. Now, if you understand the way that the mechanical fuel pump system works in the 3-liter TDIs, the transfer pump only provides fuel to the high pressure fuel pump specifically. Now, if you go through and you read the forums and stuff and you do your own digging and whatnot, there are some people that say what you can do is you can crack the injector lines, the crossover lines or whatever while you're using the transfer pump basic setting, and you can run it for a little bit. So essentially what it's gonna do is it'll push the fuel up to the high pressure fuel pump. And then once you open and relieve the pressure from one of the injector lines on both rails, it's gonna forcibly push a little bit of fuel past the high pressure fuel pump, because essentially what you don't want to do is sit here and crank the engine with the high pressure fuel pump being dry, because that's going to cause more damage to your fuel system and eventually kill your CP4. And then you have bigger problems than just the relief valve. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do this a couple of times. I'm just going to kind of do it off camera because I've explained to you guys what I'm going to do. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to hit go. You're going to hear the transfer pump go on. We're going to let it prime for about a minute or two. The glow plug light is going to flash because you're doing the basic setting for the pump. We're going to crack the fuel line, make sure fuel comes out that's decently pressurized, put it back on, run this again, do it a couple of times, and then we're going to crank the engine over and hopefully it starts up just like that. So do that and then we'll be right back. All right, so after doing that, just gonna quickly check and make sure you don't have any leaks coming from the actual pressure regulator itself. Make sure it's tight, make sure everything's connected, and let's crank it over and hope this thing starts, because I wanna go for a boogie and make sure this doesn't roll coal anymore. Only a little bit of a longer crank, not too bad. Yes, and I know that I do have some lovely 3-liter TDI chain rattle. That is just because this motor doesn't have the updated chain tensioners yet, and those of you that know anything about those, they run on hydraulic pressure, the very old ones, and they don't have any system for when the oil pressure dips over the amount of time that the vehicle sits. It doesn't do that when you like get back in the car after like 30 minutes or whatever. It's like, you know, a couple hours, but that's besides the point. There we go. Only a little bit of like maybe 1 second of additional crank time and good to go. So we've got VCDS hooked up in the car. Let's go log it, do a little drive, make sure we don't get any check engine lights, and let's see if we fixed our coal rolling issues. Okay, so we've got all of our technology running. We got our GoPro, we got the logger going, we got the controls for the GoPro. We're ready to rock and roll here, folks. So let's go see if we've improved this thing. Head over to the test facility. Okay, so I don't immediately notice like any difference. Like we're just kind of like putting around a little bit here. Doesn't feel any different really. The throttle response feels the same. I'm not expecting to really see a difference just in that regard, but nothing seems out of the ordinary either, which I guess is good. So yeah, we'll find out in a second here how it does, and I'm hoping it figures itself out. Okay, so we're gonna do a couple little polls with the GoPro. We're gonna switch over here in a second, and then we'll look at some data logs. So we're in the test facility. Let's try it out. Hopefully no more coal rolling. Honestly, still quite a bit, but I don't think it's nearly as bad as it was before. Oh no, it's clear now. Nothing. So maybe it's just relearning the regulator valve? I don't know, because that was wide open. Basically nothing now. Hell yeah. Urban 4x4 and hell yeah. Yoo! Oh yeah, look at this hill, buddy. Oh yeah, oh my God. I don't know if you guys can see behind the car, but we'll go wide open. It just does no more rolling. I think we fixed it. Hell yeah, brother. Let's go look at the logs. One quick review on the graph, if my camera will focus here. We want to make sure that the blue line isn't going over the red line nearly as much anymore, and if we look here, compared to the other log that we looked at, the actual was going over the specified quite a lot, and there's a lot bigger of a gap between the two numbers, which is mainly what we're looking for here, and we do have the numbers down here that we're going to look at now. But if we're looking at the difference between the high pressure actual value and the specified, as you can see down in the log, our actual is typically staying below the specified value now, which is exactly what we want, other than just kind of like right back around here where the actual, and if we look at the graph, it actually just didn't quite catch up. Like they're both two different data points. I don't know why they're lined up like that, but yeah, it's pretty dang close, only slightly off a little bit, but yeah, as you saw from the video, it's not rolling coal anymore, so there we go. Another job done on the Q7. Really quick and easy install. If you weren't filming this like I was and going and doing all the test driving and everything, this would literally only take you probably 30 minutes. So for the low price of 200 bucks, fix your fuel economy, don't roll coal anymore, and make as much power as possible. I will have the parts linked in the description, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, because there will be more 3-liter and Q7 content, and we got to start off-roading this thing sooner than later, so that will probably be the next video. But thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. Peace out. I will see you in the next video.